remember earlier slides, they're 57% at data analysis. They're scoring with the minimal students. So making sure we're having that reflective dialogue.
And this is a prescription for intervention. Is what you talked about. You want to finish that thought out, Doc?
Oh yes. This is a student who's minimal, and you can see it's red all the way across. You know, in most cases, the kids know that they're low. And we need to make sure that oftentimes we focus on building the weaknesses instead of building their strengths. You know, low performing students need some time working on their positives as well to help build their confidence. As a teacher, when you cross-reference and when you look at your students within your class, you can see in the algebra strand, that's a class issue, not a student issue. So when we talk about our data, you know, we can't always label this student in the low tier. So we have a class issue or a school issue as it relates to algebra.
This is a student example, 5th grade at-risk student, and talks about the current behavior of the student. Been in 2 schools, a total of 33 incidents in both schools. So we're able to look at all the risk factors as relating to it. Here's some of the things that the students have been involved in. 11 defiance of school personnel, 2 disrespectful and insubordinate, and things of that nature. So that's 16 incidents just on those 2 categories. So the conversations that we can have with our teachers and staff is that, okay, the child, it's very clear that the child is defiant and has a problem with adults. Mm-hmm. So your approach should not be to be the pushback person. Your approach should be to try to develop some type of relationship if the child will allow it, because it's very clear pushback is not going to work, because he or she is very clear based on the historical data. That child more likely going to curse you out or tell you something that you don't want to hear, because that's the data. The data is already there. So when you're able to see that data, it will cause you to react differently to the child. Don't give him or her what they expect you to do. And that's where the change comes in. So I don't know if y'all seen this constant discipline presentation. This big kid from somewhere that talks about how the lady comes in and she doesn't play his game. It's the same process. So if you know this information, you act differently. Because the kid there's the data set right there. So the second school has an opportunity. Okay. We're trying to educate the child. So we have to put our little feelings, our little adult space to the side and move away from our pushback issues in order to be able to find the real cause that's causing this child to be defiant.
It also goes back to being reflective, being able to drill down. You know, who's really having the issue with the teacher? I found in a lot of cases, your tested area teachers aren't writing a lot of nitpicking referrals. And so we're able to drill down, in this case, insubordination, defiance. I mean, that's our biggie. And most of the times, the student is written up for something and they do not have the social skills to be able to deal with it. I shared earlier the student, I was a trigger for her. When I didn't say anything to her, she typically had a pretty good day. I'm being honest now. But them sagging pants all the way down to her ankles just really bothered me. But being reflective on the data, was it about her doing what I want her to do, or was it about her pulling up her pants? If I'm the trigger, that's when I go to counseling. Would you please go to her? She would do it for the counselor. She wouldn't do it for me. So all that goes back to that relationship piece, because our goal is to change the behavior. We want to make sure we're changing behavior.
You know, I tell the story about a kid, when I was a principal, a kid cursed me out, and I had the resource officer there, and my AP was there. I said, well, look, just get his parents in the morning, because I need to talk about this. I never had a kid curse me like that. I mean, it was just so. And he said, my mama even told me that I could curse you. I said, you know, I'm trying to think about my history, maybe. What's driving this? So I brought the mother in the next day, and I said, well, you know, what bothered me was your son said that you told him it was okay that he could disrespect and curse me. She looked at me and looked at him, she said, fool, that ain't the man I'm talking about. So, my point is this. So what if I would have suspended the child, had him arrested, and all of that, and it wasn't about me? You follow what I'm saying? So you always have to get to the root cause of it. You have to get to the root cause of it. And when he said to me, my mama said I could cuss you out, I said, told my AP, I said, look, get his mama in, so I can, figure out
That's a good point. You know, sometimes as adults, you have to walk away. You know, we teach the students to walk away. I remember when I was first teaching, you get them in a corner, now you got to do something. And, sometimes, and it's not to say you don't address the issue, but sometimes you have to use a little wisdom in your decision making. Because oftentimes students will put the adult in a position to where now they have to justify their actions. You can't talk to me like that, but we teach kids, don't let words bother you. So we have to model that for our students, and it's hard sometimes.
So this is another look at the 5th grade student. And this is a historical situation and also attendance as well. And as you can see, this student, last 2 years, his behavior picked up. The last 2 years, the first 3 years, model student, but that 5th year, behavior went wild. So that's what I was talking about. It's time for a conversation.
Had a student, data was similar. No one really knew this, and it wasn't until I looked at discipline data, I called his grandmother, asked him, well, what happened? Well, his father lives out of town. While he was visiting his father out of town, his dad killed himself in front of the student. Now, that was nowhere in any TST folder or any type of documentation. The grandmother, she's raising all these grandkids, she's doing the best she can. So all I knew was this child had 41 referrals, 7th grade. He was bad last year, he's bad this year. But once we got Tableau, I started looking, okay. I had the information right there for him.
So this is how we look at achievement data. As I pointed out to you earlier, each one of the bubbles represent a student. And as you can see, this is our student growth percentile band here, and as you can see there, and this horizontal space as well gives us our bands. So we're looking at the red, the colors was talking about MCT2 from last year. These are where they were last year based on the colors. Purple, blue or purple is advanced, green is proficient, orange is basic, and red is minimum. So you can see this student here is growing and needs to still run. These students are moving up the band, they're off the bottom, but look at the loss that we're talking about. Remember the loss we was talking about. These students that were advanced, that we're losing these students. So we got to figure out what are we doing to these students that are not growing. They should be moving to this part of the quartile and not going down this way. That's the way we're able to look at that and have courageous conversations. And teachers can click on that particular dot and see exactly who that is, and then have individual conversations with our students. we're sold that having students with skin in the game is very key. All of our kids have an individual learning plan. They make their growth goals. They sit down, they have a conversation with the teacher. They make the goals, they take them home, they share them with the parents sign off. That's every time that we have an assessment. So we just had our map and STAR assessment, so those goals will be going home next week. And the parents will have that information, the kids will sign off, and they will have some kind of idea of what they're working toward.
And so again, this is our map piece. This is actually the previous percentile. I think most schools, they are using MAP. I think they're going to try using the Kentucky alignment, which proficiency is at the 56th percentile. And you know, sometimes those MAP reports, trying to take them from the dynamic report to Excel spreadsheet, you have to do some maneuvering with that. So once we're able to move it to the 56th percentile, be able to actually identify those students as relates to their growth.
So as you can see, all these previous proficient students, and this is, and as one has all drifted all the way, and as Dr. Williams was talking about 56th percentile, and you can see where these kids will be, how many more we would lose once we move the target line. And that's how we're able to have a visual about what we're doing and how we're progressing. And that's how we monitor, look at our progress monitoring piece. So this is kind of gives you some idea of how it works for us. The architect of Tableau, the principal, department head, the superintendent, and lead teachers, they all have access to it, and lead teachers share it in their PLCs with their teachers. So they have access to see their individual student data. That's been very key for us. This is the first year that we've gone to that, and teachers are already asking, you know, we've completed the map. When are we going to have the Tableau data? You know, so we're glad to hear that conversation. We're excited about now teachers wanting the data because they want to go to work and they want to do something about it. And that's been very key for us. So it's a cloud-based piece, yes.
Do you all have your MCAS data in there already?
Yes. We have MCAS data. Any data set that we collect is in there. We'll go live and maybe have time to go live and show you a piece too.
And one of the, I hear from my teachers all the time, which is really honest feedback. We have all this data, we really don't know what to do with it. So as much as we can compress it into one location, I think that would really help aid, what we believe really will help aid the teacher. So
it's our student information system. As I said, SAM7 is very key. I mean, it's a good tool that all of us, mostly in Mississippi, are using. So all that information is there. But when you're getting it with a PDF, whatever the file is, CSV, then you have to paste it off into something and then sort it and then figure out what it is that you got once you get to that point. So, but to move it into a data piece, a warehouse piece like that's very actionable, we're able to do it. This is all cloud-based, so anywhere you want to get on, you see it. You know, you pull it up, you look at it. There's no limitations to that.
And my next question goes off what I just asked, because we were looking at a similar program, but we found that the time-wise so far as in getting them to them actually getting it to a format, how long, like for example, when you sent the bill today, you wanted to see this particular data this way, how long was the turnaround time on them getting that to you like you wanted?
Just depending on what it is, it may be the same day.